Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's live update. I hope you're well. I hope you've had a great weekend, and thank you very much indeed for popping in today as we meander around what's happening in markets now and see what will be happening next. All in all, been an interesting few days. Bit of a quiet start to the week because, of course, the US markets are closed. We shall address that as we go. Just this important message, just to remind you that this is for educational purpose only. Please make sure that you do your own due diligence on anything that you see or hear. Make sure that you follow trading plans and, of course, manage risk on every trading action. That's entry and exit, consistent with your own financial situation and trading objectives. Please make sure that you do your own. All in all, let's get things let's get things going. I've just checked that we are actually running on YouTube. Thank you very much, Wayne. Hi, morning to you as well, mate. Right, let's get into the presentation, of course, and let's start by looking at uh, where we sort of finished on Friday. U.S. indices continued to hold near record highs, despite a softer session after some PCE data that was marginally warmer than expected. Fantastic to see so many of you there at the session on on Friday. I think that it was rather impressive that so many rocked up, being such an unsociable hour. But thank you for that. Always so appreciated. Um, as I said, it is a Labor Day holiday today, but still bimbling around in the across the news wires is what happened on Friday with the appeals court suggesting that or reinforcing that Trump tariff, the use of emergency powers to impose tariffs was illegal. So that ruling's been watched. Not sure what will happen. Of course, Trump's been very active on Truth Social since, um, blaming blaming Democratic judges for that decision, despite the fact that it was actually unconstitutional. Anyway, the Asia's watching that as well. It just appears to have a little more noise with it being reinforced following a previous ruling. Don't expect any major action yet. There's no action needed until I think it's October the 14th when current tariff clauses run out. Um, but it'll be interesting to see what happens as it gets closer to that date. Despite the day off today, if you like, it is Jobs Week in the US, and of course, that does have fairly major significance. Uh, all in all, we've got some US futures mildly positive today, despite the markets being shut. Asian markets are quite mixed in early trading. When I looked, ASX was down around 0.4%. European futures point to a cautious open this afternoon at this stage, although we would expect, of course, with the US being shut, to have slightly lower trading volume throughout the day, but certainly tonight, of course, as well. US dollar index is trading near the bottom of a range, may test support. Gold has hit new record highs and got follow through in Asia. That's probably the major technical story of the day. Um, Also, keep an eye on copper, which is testing short-term resistance. Of course, we'll have a look at charts of all of these in a few minutes. And oil continues to be range-bound, and Bitcoin continues to test support. Both of those are not looking particularly positive. So earnings and trade, we do have some tech earnings. Broadcom, I think, are the highlight. Today with some straggling tech earnings through the course of the week. Trade news and some of the geopolitical stuff going on may well be interesting as the week progresses. Of course, we've got the non-farm payrolls on Friday, following, of course, weekly jobs and ADP jobs that come out Thursday because of this shortened week. Today, we've got very little going on, but the Eurozone manufacturing PMI numbers might be interesting. So just keep an eye on those. Let's check out some. Let's check out some charts, shall we? Actually, just so I check one thing. Oh, we have got some. The OBS gods are playing with us today. Here's Forex Factory in terms of the data that's due. You can see today, as I said, we've got Swissy, French, German, and the Eurozone PMI data out as a whole later on. Public holiday in Canada and the US, of course. Let's just have a look at what's going on later in the week for you. Um, so we do get some CPI. It's the flash CPI coming on the Eurozone tomorrow, which could be important. We are expecting a slight tick to the downside on the core number. And we've got a manufacturing PMI data coming out of the US tomorrow as well. That'll be watched. We are expecting a slight tick to the upside, but still in contraction rather than expansion. Locally, we've got the GDP number coming out of Australia on Wednesday morning. We are expecting a tick up in the Q1Q number. Um, we wouldn't want that to be too warm if we're hoping the RBA may cut rates again. It's sort of in the balance, but we do have Governor Bullock speaking later on Wednesday as well. Uh, and then, of course, we move on to Thursday. We've got the ADP and the weekly jobs numbers coming out. Obviously CPI, but of course, and then, of course, some services PMI numbers as well. But it's that non-farm payrolls um, on Friday, which is going to be the headline act. We are expecting a tick up in the employment rate from 4.2 to 4.3. If that should happen, or if we get a softer number than that, 74,000, which isn't really a very good number at all, then we may see chance of rate cuts brought forward a little bit. September. There is between half and three quarters of a percent priced in, depending on which month you look at, prior to the end of the year. As we've got some internet access, I'm just going to utilize it now. There we go. So we can see CNBC there. You can see there. ASX continues to sell off. Interestingly, Nikkei is having a really bad day, down 2%, whereas the Hang Seng is bouncing very nicely. Shanghai also positive. You can see there, it's worthwhile having a little read of this. There's also been some major questions about Trump's health over the last few days as well. Uh, Potential deterioration there, and JD Vance, that gargantuan character of a man, has already suggested that he might step up if there was a tragedy occurred, which is an interesting thing to say. Right, okay, and let's just check out the futures, shall we, since we're here. Here's the futures you can see there. Really small gains. They've just softened a little bit. Flat day across the board, both in FX and in equity futures. You can see only a very cautious open. We have got gold flying. We've got crude oil to the downside. Cookers pretty neutral today. So all that is interesting. Let's check out some charts now, shall we? I've had the bonus of things playing as they should. It's really arbitrary in terms of whether it works or not, but I'm sort of glad it did. It does add something to the session, I'm sure you will agree. Here's the US 500 day, and you can see that sort of record high Thursday, pull back on Friday on the futures, pull back on Friday, and pretty neutral today. So um, that's what I said. It just appears to be very robust in terms of how well it's holding up. The Nasdaq's obviously lagging a little bit. We seem to have found a support on the futures around about 23,430, which was tested on Friday. So it looks as though we may push up to record highs again on Thursday. So interesting price action, but certainly still not seeing that summer sell-off we were sort of anticipating. We got a brief pullback early August, but that really accounted for a very small pullback, even in the Nasdaq of only 3%. So hanging on very well indeed. What isn't hanging on is the USD. You can see it's pushing back towards support there, and of course, because of that, ta-da, there's gold. There's the close on Friday of those uh, record closes back in April, May, June, and July, respectively. Very, very strong indeed, pushing towards 3,500 at this stage. And you can see that buying in Asia as the buyers, particularly over the last hour and a half, are jumping in with some enthusiasm subsequent to that breach of Friday's high around about an hour ago. Quite remarkable. As for copper, as I said, top of the range looks really interesting. If we pop it on an hourly chart, you can see there we're already testing the highs there from Friday. Breach of 459 potentially takes us up. If we look at the 4 hourly chart, back towards this 475. So certainly um, buyers look as though they're in copper after this tariff-induced drop. A little bit of a sideways range. Can we hold and push through this with some momentum is the question. Both copper and gold are well worth keeping an eye on over the next few hours, I would suggest. Possibly get another slingshot to the upside on European Open this afternoon. Oil, however, is still looking mid-range, very, very dull chart. Bitcoin is hardly dull. We are now testing the lows from last week as Bitcoin continues to look shaky. Now, subsequent to that move through 110,000 that we referenced last week, we're now testing this level here um, at around about 10,750. So yeah, very interesting technically. Um, a little pick up in the weekend, but just sold off again. So if we look at the hourly chart, you can just see there that this is under pressure. I'll be keeping an eye on, uh, or as a reference, I'll be keeping an eye on this low here from the 30th of August, so Saturday's trading. Um, Breach of that, and we're continuing to sell off, as I would suggest. Whichever way you slice it, we're in a very marked downwards trend channel. And if we do get a breach of this, then 104,000 and then the all important 100,000 on the cards. You can see it's probably more clearly on the weekly chart with that key level. Oops. That key level around this 100,000 mark there to keep the eye on. But could be a short opportunity here worth keeping an eye on. Let's have a look at some FX crosses. Let's start with the US yen. And you can see that USD weakness this morning, possibly on the back of that tariff news, which doesn't just appears to be gathering a little more airspace than I would have expected. But you can see a 30 pip drop in the last hour versus the yen after looking quite perky earlier on. So we've given up all the gains almost for today. We're back in this range. 146.76 would be the level I'll be keeping an eye on this. You can see it was important. Towards the back end of last week, it was the low on Thursday and Friday. And also, there's some price action down here. There could be a short-term trade here for around about 20 pips or so for right now. If we look at the euro yen, again, you can see that USD weakness. Put it on a short-term chart so you can see that it is moving right now. It's reached 117 again, which technically is important. Um, and so in the first instance, I would expect a test possibly of 117.24. The higher probability trade is possibly in breach of that. We could see this up to uh, moving up towards 118 if this gathers momentum. So I quite like this as a chart, although the package is massive. There's a fairly high probability 20 pips in the first instance there. Looking at the Aussie yen, you can see the weakness in the Aussie after an early spike to the upside. There's a little bit of yen strength comes to pass. Triangular at the moment. Let's just have a quick look at the euro yen actually, just see if that's how it's traveling. On the daily chart, we've got support around about 171.40. It's made its way up to 172 possible price target on this. If we get momentum to the upside, that's where we're around 172.63. So around about 50 pips up from where we are now. I'll be looking at this level here as an important level at 172.20 for a potential 40 pip move. I think that looks like a high probability trade. I'm going to make that my chart of the day. But you can see there, once again, over the last hour, we've got some yen strength coming in. I'm just going to quickly check out the Forex out in a minute. I'll come back to that chart in a moment. I just want to make sure that there's no. I can't see anything coming out of Japan. But with that Nikkei weakness. I mean, just having a quick look across the news wires and just sort of seeing what I can see. Hmm. What I'm also going to do, I'm going to sort of pop up the an article to read. I'll just pop it into the chat on the tariff situation because I do think it's an interesting read. Trump's saying it'll go to this is all going to the Supreme Court ultimately to be, and they'll throw it out because there is essentially that's what it's saying. I can't see anything specifically on the yen, although the Nikkei is obviously getting melted a little bit. Anyway, so there we go. A little bit of yen strength temporarily. Watch. This may be just a retracement, but it does appear to be across multiple asset classes. So you might have to be patient. So wait until we get a breach of 172.20. Thank you for those of you who have clicked on those likes. It's always really appreciated. Um, if you wouldn't mind doing that and subscribing, potentially also, it's always a good thing. If you wouldn't mind. Right. Okay. So let's pop onto the into the ASX. Just a couple that we were watching last week. I have to change accounts if you give me a second. There we go. So A2 Milk, one we're watching, you can see here, it's going very well indeed. This was a chart of the day last week. Just a little pause today. But really that breach of 886 there was significant. And want to potentially see if it can go up any higher from this. Um, Zipco, again, another one we were watching last week. This is looking spectacularly good. It just continues to move higher. I like this stock. I think it's going places. We'll look at the weekly chart. You can see this is just flying. And the monthly chart would suggest that the next significant port of call on this, if you're wanting to hold it medium term, would be around about that 520 level. So around about 20% or 22% up from where we are now. So one to one to keep an eye on, certainly. That's going to be hard to beat as a chart of the day, I would suggest. Particularly, we've got some increased buying again today. There's the potential move to the upside. This was a chart of the day in a couple of points, but certainly it was when we breached that 350. It's gone crazy since then. EBS we don't like. Let's just have a look at what else, and we'll just do a quick search on here. See what else is doing well. IEL one with been that's up another 6% today. So they had an earnings bump on last week. A little bit of a profit taking retracement. We're looking good to again. I like this as a medium term hold. This places international students and also does English language teaching. There's a big gap for it to fill. It's one we're tracking here, but obviously that earnings was one that was hard to catch. Gold stocks, not surprisingly, doing really well. There's Evolution Mining as an example, WGX. There we go, smashing through all-time highs on WGX. We did get a pop-up last week as well, which was free this gold to move to the upside. So WGX looks to be in a really good place, not a bad place to be at all. Paladin looks interesting, but I probably would say that this is capped to around about that 880 level. You can see there, if we breach that level at 817, there's around about 7% upside on that. And one of my favorite stocks over the last few months has been LYC. We've got a pullback. We had a pullback there. Looks as though we're bouncing off this level here. So you can see we closed back over that 1157. So rejection of the double bottom, 1486. This again has been one that's been chat of the day a few times. Yeah, nickel industries have just struggled to push through, but nah, we don't like that chart. Look at Sigma for a little while. Let's just see where Sigma are. Sigma look as though they've been helped a little bit by earnings. Sigma, watch, keep an eye out for 320, 320, 328 maybe. You can see that was a significant level. So if we get Sigma Healthcare breaching 326, one for your radar for later. And if you like the tech space, I really like NXT. I think it's a very solid stock, good earnings. You can see that jump there. Um, Not all-time highs on this, but there looks every probability that it's going to come up and test this sort of 1780 level. So these guys are in network solutions. It's around about 6.7% to the upside on that. To plant my flag on this, really. There's a few goodies, but it's hard to go past Zip, to be honest. So I'll give you two. I'll give you Zip, and I will give you IEL. So if IEL breaks $6, I think that's a good call. There we go. So there's our ASX or your ASX charts of the day. I've got a few to pick from today. Obviously, the US market is closed, but worthwhile checking in on Nvidia. Range bound, just that sort of test of resistance. And Carnival, which were one of our charts, again, bit of profit taken on Friday. Just watch those two when they reopen on Tuesday. Anyway, that should just about cook it for today, I suspect. Thank you very much to all of those you have that ticked the likes. Don't forget to subscribe with the notifications on. You'll see a little bell button. Um, Subscribed already. If you just click on the arrow beside that, um, you can get notifications coming on your phone when it's starting in 30 minutes and it's just started. So that might help. Either way, what's really important is that you popped in. So thank you very much for that. I hope you have a great week. I will see some of you later, those of you doing EA programs. And of course, we'll see you. Um, we'll see you later in the week for on Thursday for live update. Watch out for notification of Inner Circle. I'll just if you want to email me about anything, then feel free at any time. It's really simple. Just my email address. If you've not got it, I know most of you have. If there's anything, oops, let's try that again, shall we? If there's anything I can help you with, it's just mike.smith@gomarkets.com. And I'm always happy to hear from you. So you guys take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. We'll see you again very soon. Bye bye for now.